I love costume parts because the gestures you have to do are bigger. The words you have to say are bigger. When you're in a modern thing, it's hands in your pockets. You're looking down at the ground. You're kicking stones. You know, it's that kind of acting. There's nothing wrong with it. It's lovely. It can be in the hands of somebody like Marlon Brando on the waterfront. It can be absolutely brilliant. But for myself, to wear a cloak and stride through a thing and do gestures like this is much more satisfying.
Nuts. Did you actually, because that was quite big at the time, did you actually find, we've been talking a bit about recognition, and with the thing that with Diana going on at the moment, did you actually find people noticed you for what you were...
It's like I said before, you can make a film, you can do a couple of years on stage, and then suddenly you do one evening on television and everybody knows you. You walk down the street the next day and everybody knows you, and they're all willing to come up and talk to you. Even if they recognise you, having seen you in a film, they're more reluctant to come and speak to you. What the difference is, I don't know, but that's the difference.
I noticed, obviously, they don't seem, in my opinion, to make those kind of classical adaptations now, or at least very often. When they do, there seems to be an awful lot of huge budget and real pow.
Well, the BBC used to be wonderful at it. I don't know how many people remember they had a classic series practically every Sunday afternoon, and late afternoon, Sunday evening, and these were well established. They were the classics, and they were famous for them. I mean, everywhere bought them. America bought them. They loved them. But they don't... I think when they realised they had to spend more money because budgets got higher and higher, and they didn't do it.
Do you think... do you think that's quite sad? Are you saddened by the way television is now? Is there a bigger definition between theatre where you can do so much more, possibly?
Well, when I first started in television, it was live.
Right.
And and although it was terrifying, I mean, it was much more terrifying than going on stage.
Right.
Because you were going out, you couldn't see, in a theatre, you could see your audience. In a television studio, you couldn't see your audience. There were millions of them.
Yeah.
And that really was frightening. But what that fear did, it held the company together, and although the plays probably weren't as expertly acted as they are now, because they have breaks, they have retake after retake, they can get it more perfectly, they had something else, they had a quality which you can't capture.
You saddened that, I think with Doctor Who, an awful lot of it's been lost. You're actually saddened. That series that I was mentioned earlier, is any of that still in existence, do you know of? Or
which?
The William the Conqueror one there.
No. The amazing thing was with the BBC and ITV, I think, they only kept any show for 27 days, and then they wiped it because they needed the tape. Now it's it's never ending, and they can archive all these things. I've got a few plays in the archive, but the Airwood Awake is not one.
You went on and did a series called Manhunt, which was more of a regular thing. What was that actually about? I know that was another period.
Yeah, it was about two men and one woman caught up with the resistance in France during the war, and they're trying to get away from out the clutches of the Germans. And the girl, for instance, gets caught up with a Nazi, and we later find out after she's there having an affair with him that she's a Jewess. It was quite a good series.
That was. I noticed on the cast list that you acted alongside a guy who was in quite a popular Doctor Who story, The Ice Warriors, called Peter Markworth.
Yes.
Was he good to work with? Is he still alive?
I think so. I've not heard about him yet, but he's a bit of a, I mean, you know, he just doesn't do any acting anymore, so we don't see him.
And quite recently, I saw you in, before moving on to Doctor Who, I saw you in the film of The Craze, which I thought was really quite good. It's quite strong.
I've not seen it.
You've not actually seen it?
No, I made, it's about 5, 6
It was 90,
years old,
I think it was.
Yeah, it was 7.
Yeah.
And I can't stand violence, so I haven't seen that movie. No.
Right. The two main leads of that were actually actors at all.
They were a pop group.
Yeah, Spandau Ballet.
Yeah.
Two
brothers.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what they were.
Gary and
Martin, Gary and Kat.
Yeah.
Having been a good quality stage actor, is it difficult watching people? I'm not trying to ask you to criticise their performance, but is it difficult acting alongside somebody in a major production that isn't that experienced? Do you actually feel as though you want to say something but have to stop yourself?
Well, I mean, Gary was a bit of a nuisance because he kept trying to tell you how to do it. But, you know, I mean, that's his personality. Martin was entirely different. He just got on with his own job. He wouldn't dare have told you how to do yours. That was the difference between the two brothers. Smashing.
Now, moving on to the Curse of Fenric, which obviously this convention is based around. First of all, did you recognise anything when you came back here?
No, because I didn't work.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was at the army camp and on the coast by, you know, scenes in the water.
Do you have quite vivid memories of that, or is it just a small episode of your life that?
It's just a small episode of one's life. You know, we do so much. I was just rather glad that I'd got Doctor Who at last, because I heard that Doctor Who was ending,
right?
And it had been going for how many years?
At the time, it was in its 26th season, in 27 years.
Yeah, well, you see, all those years I'd wanted to be in it.
Right.
And this job came up, that job came up, but never a Doctor Who script. And I'd given up hope of ever being in one.
You hadn't actually been asked before to?
No, and then my neighbour, a man called John Nathan Turner, said, would you do one for us? I said, yes.
Do you remember anything of the character you played, Millington, Commander Millington? Because I actually thought he was quite a good role, had some depth.
The marvellous thing about Millington was he was this martinet, terribly military.
Yeah.
But he was very sad, and he was past it. He'd been absorbing all these Hitlerisms to sort of anything Hitler, so that he knew his enemy.
Yeah.
And when they invaded, he'd know how to deal with them. And he got sucked into the whole thing, and he was just a shell of a man. He was like the empty building of a past presence.
Yeah, there was quite a scene that really springs to mind where your character sitting at a desk in the office, and they've got all the Hitler memorabilia all around.
Oh, yes, I remember that. And he's got all the Hitler memorabilia around, and he's sitting there, and he's so deep in thought that one of his men knocks twice on the door to come in.
Yeah.
Gets no reply. Comes in, stands in front of him, and he still isn't aware that man's dead.
Mm.
You know, they're good opportunities to act.
Another thing I actually liked about that character and the story was it was very involved with things like Norse mythology, your character seemed to be driven by it, beyond reason perhaps. I'm not going to ask you to read it because it's not fair, but actually wrote down a lot of, because they sort of had a book where they pulled things out of, and I thought I don't know if you remember it, but one of the most vivid things of the story. Have you actually had the chance to see Curse of Fenric?
No. As I say, I'm very frightened of ever seeing myself, and it's only under very special circumstances. For instance, If something is 6 months old, then I will look at it.
Right.
And often I won't look at things at all. It's just that I'd rather remember all my feelings when I played the part. Right. And if the director says to me that was well done, that's all I need. I don't need to sort of see it myself. If he says well done, he was the one that employed me, he's the one that pays me. So I like to please him, but that's all.
But
so Fenric, I mean, I did see it.
You did see it?
I did see it, but I wouldn't study it. I wouldn't go back and see it again.
Was it, would you be proud of doing something like that? Obviously.
Well, I was proud of doing Doctor Who, of being involved at last, because it was amazing. All the actors wanted to do Doctor Who.
Yeah, I mean, that is another question I actually had, was that Doctor Who over the years has had so many good quality actors. I went through a book, Michael Gough was a guest star at one story, Eleanor Bron.
Eleanor Bron?
Yeah. She's done two, City of Death and Revelation of the Daleks, but she's done two Doctor Who's. Julian Glover did two. There's been some absolute terrific actors. What do you think attracts people of that calibre to a series?
If a show is good, like Doctor Who. I mean, Doctor Who starts off with this brilliant idea. It's called Doctor Who.
Right.
I mean, that's brilliant for a start. Then you've got this character who can be any age, any kind of costume. He can be light or dark, as Sylvester was saying. He found great fun in sort of introducing this dark side. Well, I remember that dark side coming from much earlier. William Hartnell, very dark, and I saw him, and it was wonderful.
So you think, no matter what training or whatever what background you come from, it seems like Doctor Who can appeal to
everybody. And I mean, in actors' canteens, anywhere where in the pub when actors were gathered, they invariably discussed a previous episode of Doctor Who.
Really?
Oh yes, no kidding.
Oh, that's excellent. Can I ask the floor for some questions if they've got any, please?
You said earlier on about how you get into the character and whatever, and you read around it and you pick up clues and that.
Yeah.
How much of yourself actually goes into those characters, or do you just live for what's in it?
Well, because it's all sifted through you, there's quite a lot of yourself goes in, especially if it is a modern play, because little scratches of the head and tiny gestures that you do when you're doing a modern play creep in and they betray you. Whereas if you're doing a big costume piece, you have to cut out little gestures like that. So the big gestures are not so much you, because they're not every day. So there's quite a lot of you in a modern character.
Another question.
Did you do much research into the Second World War and the army side from it?
No, I used to. I used to try to research every part I played, but I realised that the audience never see that research. So while it's all right up to a point to inform you, it can be frustrating because you may discover something in the research which is not in the part. It's not written there. And you struggle to try and get that in, and you may muck up what's already written. So it's best always to go from your written material and hope that the director, the writer has got it right.
Another question.
I think most people here would agree that one of the strengths of the Curse of Fenric is the actual writing, storyline and the script. And some of Mellington's bits, particularly as we were saying with poetry, were almost sort of like soliloquies. Were you surprised at the quality of the writing when you got the scripts?
I wasn't. Yes, but insofar as, I mean, for instance, that scene I told you where the man came into the room and Millington wasn't even aware that he was there. I mean, things like that surprised me. They were, I thought, they really were great ladder rungs for you to get on. An actor, when he sees something like that that interests him, that hooks his interest, he thinks, oh Christ, yes, and he's with it straight away.
There was actually a bit where you were reading some of that out, and they were actually showing like footage of this Viking ship under the water, and with quite powerful music being played, and I think that really set the scene for that type of thing. I think Curse of Fenric was terrific.
I thought so too.
Another question? No questions. Can I ask you a quick question? Nobody's actually mentioned today, which is quite sad, and I've just been told to ask one more thing, but the director of Curse of Fenric actually passed away this year, Nicholas Mallet. Do you actually remember?
No, and I only found that out when I was talking to John about him earlier today. So I didn't know he'd died.
Did you appreciate his work? I think you said you appreciated the production.
Oh, I did. He was a lovely man to work with. I remember, a nod of approval from him after you'd done a scene. And yes, it doesn't always mean when a director says good or when you finish the scene, it can either mean a lot to you or it means nothing. You still go away worried, but some directors can give you that nod and you think, oh, and that makes you happy. He was one of those.
I'm afraid we've run out of time. Things are running terribly late. Ashley, can we have one more question?
Have you ever considered directing yourself?
I have done.
Oh, yeah?
I've directed about 5 plays. I directed the whole season of the Young Vic, Othello, the Midsummer Night's Dream, and Macbeth. I love it.
On that note, unfortunately we've got to end this panel. Can we say thank you to Alfred Lynch? He's been terrific.